Every year, nearly 1,700 people from Southeast Texas are convicted of felony crimes and sentenced to state or federal prison. Every year. And every year, about the same number are released back into the community. I'm Jefferson County Judge Jeff Brannick, and while public safety is always our top priority, the reality is 95% of all inmates will someday be released from prison and return to their communities. And when they do, they'll face many challenges, reintegrating into their families and communities, and one of their top priorities will be finding a job. It's nearly always a condition of supervised release, and it's an important part of reestablishing themselves as civil and productive members of society. Now, while there are programs in place at both the state and federal levels to prepare offenders for release and then guide, supervise, and support them in their reentry, they will face many obstacles. As many as 8 in 10 employers don't consider ex-offenders to be viable candidates. Many occupations requiring licenses are off limits, while many employers are concerned about honesty, liability, and reliability. Across the U.S., 50% of ex-offenders are still unemployed a year after they're released from prison. That increases the likelihood that they'll reoffend and be reincarcerated. It's a sad reality that within 3 years of their release, as many as 50% of ex-offenders are rearrested, either for committing a new crime or for violating the terms of their release. The price of reincarceration is high, to the offenders, to their families, and to our community. The impact on families can be destabilizing. Children of incarcerated parents are at increased risk of dropping out of school, and their families are far more likely to be living in poverty, both of which are highly correlated with involvement with the justice system. There's a burden to the larger community as well. On average, it costs the taxpayers $20,000 per year to incarcerate an inmate. When an ex-offender is able to get a job after they're released, though, they are far less likely to be incarcerated and far more likely to become productive, law-abiding members of our community. Employers who have hired ex-offenders have found them to be highly motivated to succeed and among their most loyal, hard-working, and productive employees.
A few years ago, well, several years ago now, one of my employees was married, or he's passed away since then, was married to a man that had a criminal record. It was no murder, it was not a violent crime, but he'd gone to prison. And she met him after he got out, and he needed work, and he came over here to work, and he wanted to know if it was going to cause him any grief. We called him Easy. I said, Easy, I said, you can work here, and your criminal past is behind you. You paid your dues to society, and come on in. We'll work it out. And it turned out to be a great worker. I mean, he ended up being one of the guys that trains my people. So automatically it gave me a really good taste for the willingness to get back in. Because he said, the word he came, he said, I have to work. And nobody will give me a shot at it. Once I tell them on the application that I have a criminal record, or I've been in prison, but they just I never get a call back. They don't say, we can't hire you. They just never call you back. So he did. He came in and set a good example. But what I found out is that when they come in to interview, and I talked to them briefly, they all had the same story. I have to work. If I don't work, I can't make the money. I can't pay my debt. I can't pay what I need to pay. It doesn't leave me any other outlet but to go back to doing what I was doing before. And I said, I don't want to do that because I don't want to go back to the house. So I said, okay, this makes sense. And I kept hearing that story over and over again. So when you start to understand that, it says, unless somebody offers a hand, these people can't get out of it. It's a cycle, and it gets to you. I mean, it's sort of crazy to say it, it sort of choked me up a little bit, but I mean, in the seriousness of it all, they're really good people. They've been through stuff. I think I've got, right now, I've got employees, I got 6 employees that were either parolees or got off or were on probation or whatever the term might be for whatever they were doing. I don't ask them that. I said, you want to work, you want to show up every day. And then when I find the result is so positive that it's hard to think otherwise. But I'm impressed with the people that come and stay on with us, and the loyalty is unbelievable. I don't know what percentage, I can make up percentages, but I've had a high percentage of those people that are coming in who have a record of some sort, who are on probation or on parole or whatever, have come in and done an excellent job. And I'd say the percentages, you know, in 85 to 90% range, honestly.
It was a natural thing for us to begin to hire ex-offenders because I watched my grandfather and my dad hire ex-offenders through the years. And so it was natural for me to do the same thing when we took over. We kind of had the reputation for hiring ex-offenders, so they migrated here naturally. We hired a young lady years ago that was in a halfway house in downtown Beaumont, and she had just got released, needed a job, so we hired her and had her cleaning the floors, and she quickly went from cleaning the floors to the shipping department, and then she went from that to wanting to run machines, and so we taught her how to run the equipment, and she just was a phenomenal worker. Great employee, and I bragged on her regularly for her attendance and for her hard work. And one day she came to me and said, you keep complimenting me on my work habits. If you're serious about that, then, and you like the way I work, then you would really like my roommate at the federal unit in Bryan that I was incarcerated with. She's getting out, she will also need a job. So I hired her. Her name was Sue. Kind of worked her through the natural progression also. She started in shipping, then she started running some equipment. But I realized that Sue's background was, she had been a business owner, she had been an administrator in a school system, and then just got in trouble and found herself in the federal unit in Bryan. So her talents were being wasted in the back, so I quickly moved her into the front office, and she now pretty much runs everything on the business side of McLeod Machine Works. She has been a valuable asset to our company, and I don't know what I would do without Sue.
The biggest fear any inmate has, and I think I speak for all of us, is finding a job. It doesn't matter what skills you have. When you say the word felon, people want to run. So you're going in behind the curve to begin with. There's a lot of fear. You're embarrassed. A lot of times there's shame. And when you come in to someone and you say, look, I really need a job, but we're all looking for a way to support our families and ourselves when we come out. I started off as a shipping clerk. I swept floors. I did all the shipping for the corporation and made sure that everything went out on time. We became short-handed several times, and they needed someone to run a machine. I learned to run a lathe and several other machines. Shortly after that, they had looked at my history up in the office and found that I had some office skills. I was a former principal of a school before I was incarcerated, and they asked me to come work a couple of days a week in the office, which I did. And shortly after that, they brought me up full-time, and 10 years later, I'm now the executive assistant to the president of the company. We've become good employees. We're here at work every day. We're always on time. We're probably more diligent about our job than regular employees because we value having a job and we value our employer, and the loyalty is probably one of the most amazing things. I am extremely loyal to my employer. He's well aware of it, and he knows it, and he'll tell you that. But he's the first person that gave me a step up out of prison. And so I will always feel very strongly about supporting him and his needs as an employer.
Hiring ex-offenders is a wonderful thing because no matter what skill set you're looking for, no matter what job qualifications you may have as an employer, the people that you need are probably incarcerated today, but they will be coming out and re-entering society and need a job and can be a valuable asset to your company. Another story is a young man that came pre-sentence, needed a job. He was in trouble, but he hadn't had his trial yet. Came to me needing a job, so I hired him, and he was a very quick learner. We put him on some CNC equipment, that's computerized equipment, lathes and mills, and he quickly caught on and worked his way up through the ranks, and then he went to trial, was incarcerated for a 3-year period in federal pen here locally, and we kept his toolbox for him, wrapped up, stowed away, and told him when you get out, you got a job. So when he got out, he came back to work and has continued his progression, and now Kobe runs the CNC department for me. He has about 10 guys that are under him, and he has done a phenomenal job running that department as well. when you hire an ex-offender, they become a very loyal employee. They are very appreciative of what you've done for them by giving them a second chance at life. And most of the ex-offenders I've hired have now been here for a very long time. So all in all, we have 30 employees here. Over half of them have been incarcerated at one point or another and are ex-offenders, and they've done a great job for us.
Public safety and reducing crime will always be one of our top priorities. One way to advance those objectives is to make jobs available to qualified ex-offenders. Recognizing that some jobs will be off limits to convicted felons, particularly those requiring licensing or access to sensitive areas, it becomes all the more important that employers reevaluate their policies regarding the employment of ex-offenders. Those who do will be tapping into a large pool of highly motivated and qualified employees and may be eligible for tax credits and fidelity bonding at no cost to the employer. At Jefferson County, we have reevaluated our policies and, where appropriate, have opened job opportunities to applicants with criminal backgrounds. And, like the employers you've heard from, our experience has been positive. We ask other public and private sector employers, where appropriate, to do the same. Thank you very much.